It's Friday, July 24, 2020. Digital Trends Live is about to start. Here's some of the topics we're covering on today's episode of the show. The antitrust hearing that was supposed to feature at least 4 of the top executives in the world has been postponed, but the report it is supposed to generate does have a rough timeline. And we'll also be joined by singer, songwriter, and actor Jesse McCartney, who will be talking about his new song release and the accompanying animated music video produced in quarantine. With Master Chief making a return with Halo Infinite on the new Xbox, we'll be joined by Lisa Marie Segarra to recap Microsoft's recent event and fill us in on other important gaming news. And while space agencies are building rockets to get humans to Mars, AI Space Factory is working on the buildings that they'll live in. We'll have David Mallet on to talk about the 3D printed structures. We'll have all of that and more on today's episode of Digital Trends Live. And hello, everyone. This is Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler. Once again, thank you for joining us wherever you are. We appreciate it. We broadcast live here every single weekday, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, bringing you trending tech headlines, news, interviews, discussions, and more. And let's get started with some trending headlines. So Monday, July 27th, was the date set where 4 of the top tech executives in the world were going to convene before Congress for a summit about antitrust allegations and investigations. However, this testimony is going to be delayed. That is because it is supposed, anyway, from media reports, that John Lewis's memorial celebration is going to push back that actual testimony. That doesn't mean it's not going to happen, because this investigation does continue on. So this is coming from the Antitrust Subcommittee Chairman, David Cecilian, who said in a recent joint statement that given the role of these CEOs, we want their information. We want them to actually testify in front of us. And so with that, there are going to be some other things that come along with it. There's actually a report that is scheduled anticipated to be released this fall that would provide recommendations on how that these 4 different companies could be actually controlled a little bit more to tame some of the power that they have. And the allegations are, of course, that they are crushing other competition and smaller companies in association with what they do. So this is all part of this huge investigation. So again, Monday's testimony with the 4 executives is going to be delayed, but I would anticipate that that'll be rescheduled soon. It's going to be a pretty big one when you have the CEOs of Google, Apple, Facebook, and Amazon, and possibly even Twitter, all there virtually in front of this summit. It's going to be a pretty big deal. Continuing on here with trending news, let's talk about Google and something Google is doing to take on one of their competitors, and that is Amazon. So naturally, Amazon being one of the largest sites in the world, all the businesses selling on there, people are starting to actually go to Amazon first when they're looking for a product to buy, and that is not something that Google likes. So they are now trying to pull retailers over to their shopping section, and what they've done is a few different things to try to allow people to do that. They have dropped commissions, meaning they're not going to take a commission right now if shoppers want to list on the Google shopping site. They're also going to eliminate several other costs that come with it. They're also going to feature these products on their search engine. So they're going to pop up in search results. Now, previously, retailers would have to actually buy advertising to have that happen, but now they're going to pop up on there too. So what they're trying to do is, again, pull retailers from Amazon's site, and so that they'll start shopping on Google's site, which is naturally part of that competition. They've been trying this for several years. We'll see if this one actually works, and if retailers are going to go over to that site, but nonetheless, that is what they're doing. So expect these changes to start popping up immediately in the US, and then they'll slowly roll out to other places around the world, but that's a change you'll start seeing right there. Read more about it at digitaltrends.com. Continuing on with trending news, certainly ransomware attacks are nothing new, but there's a big one going on right now for Garmin, and this is a big attack that has happened. It's shut down pretty much their entire operation. This has been going on for almost 24 hours right now, and they are still down as of right now of this broadcast. They haven't been brought back up yet. So what happened is, reportedly, this ransomware attack shut down all service operations, and it's made Garmin shut down everything else as well to try to address this. So that left their internal systems and networks encrypted and unable to be accessed. So that means they can't even access these things right now as they try try to figure it out. There's a Reddit user that's claiming the ransomware attack was brought on by a variant called Wasted Locker, which they're responsible for several other attacks on U.S. organizations. They send in malware, and then they ask for a ransom payment of up to $10 million in Bitcoins. This is something they've done before, and this could be what's happening to Garmin right now. The outage affects, as they said on Twitter, all their call centers. They can't even receive any calls, emails, or online chats right now. So this is just something they posted on Twitter. And this also does affect Garmin wearables that they can't sync their data, and there's also people who use them for aviation navigational equipment. And because this is happening, they're no longer FAA accredited because of that. Well, not accredited, but they don't meet the requirements for flight because of this issue going on. So it's a major attack, and again, that is happening right now. But you can read more about that at digitaltrends.com. Continuing on. Trending news, Facebook may be getting a revamp. They've been revamping several different things on their platform, and now the like button may be going away for certain pages on Facebook, and that is in particular the actual pages that businesses have. So the like button, this is something that they're testing out right now, would go away. It'd be replaced by a follow button, but there's some other changes to that too. And if you ever manage a Facebook page, you will definitely notice the differences. Facebook page administrators will have access to a news feed that allows businesses and public figures to interact as their page instead of their personal profile. So somebody would be liking as, say, we're Digital Trends. It'd be Digital Trends liking and interacting with you. You'd also have a few other things that would go along with that would allow these pages to exist in a different way and also interact in a different way and curate different news and feeds as well. So this is all part of that change. But again, the like button would go away for that. The follow button would be the one replacing it. Now, for personal pages, they would still stay that way, at least according to this report, but something that they're looking to test out to kind of revamp that and change it up. So we'll see how that rolls out, how it's going to affect everybody, but you can read more about it at digitaltrends.com. And one more trending story here for you. We talk a lot about space exploration, the International Space Station, maybe future habitats on Mars and the Moon, but what about at the bottom of the ocean? Well, there is a new initiative to build just that, and this is what it is. So it is something being led by actually Jacques Cousteau's grandson, Fabien Cousteau, and this structure would be called Proteus. And it would be a 4,000 square foot modular lab. So there's a look at it right there. It's at about 60 feet below the surface of the Caribbean Sea off the coast of Curacao. And it would serve as the world's largest underwater habitat and research station. So this would be a base where oceanographers could study the ocean, obviously living down there. They could accommodate up to 12 people at a time. They would have laboratories, personal quarters, an underwater greenhouse for growing food, an ocean accessing moon pool, and several other things. So this research center would also be sustainably powered by solar energy and thermal energy. So something that they're looking to do. They said the construction would take place over 3 years. It has been delayed because of the pandemic, but this is something that they're looking to do to actually further this study of the ocean. So this would be the largest one with 4,000 square feet. Pretty interesting plan that they put forward, and those graphics and showcasing what it looks like is going to be pretty interesting to see how that all works out. But again, that is an initiative to build a large underwater modular lab at the bottom of the ocean. You can read more about that at digitaltrends.com.
Hey, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. It's now time for the product of the day.
Yes, indeed. Our product of the day is the Sony noise-canceling headphones, the WHX-B900N. You have to memorize that, but no, you don't. Here it is. These are some great headphones. Now, we always rank Sony's pretty high when it comes to noise-canceling abilities. This one in particular, has 30 hours of battery life. It's, of course, Bluetooth connectivity, so you have hands-free calling. It's got an integrated microphone. It's got a quick attention mode for effortless conversations without taking your headphones off, meaning it can monitor what's going on. It's got a touch sensor to control everything on the side of it. It's got Alexa and Google Assistant built into it, and you can optimize the sound settings with a Connect app as well. So this is some pretty good headphones, and here's the deal. Right now, they are on sale. So the regular price is $248. Right now, they're at $174, so $74 off. You can save right now, and you do that by clicking that link that's below me or to the side of me or above me or whatever platform you're watching on. You see the link? Just click that link. That's how you take advantage of the product of the day, which again is the Sony noise-canceling headphones WHX B900N. So go there now for our product of the day. All right, thank you everybody for joining us here on Digital Trends Live. We've got a lot coming up on the show, but up next, we've got actor, singer, songwriter Jesse McCartney is going to be here to talk about a new song that was released, and in particular a video, and how that happened during quarantine and what they were able to do with it. It's pretty fascinating. That's coming up next. Stick around. Back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. And welcome back to Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler, and again, thanks for joining us wherever you are. We appreciate it. We broadcast live here every single weekday, so hit that subscribe button and join the show for the conversations we get to have. And certainly something that's affected everything is, well, there's a pandemic going on. I think we all know that, but that's changed up how a lot of things work, and that includes how creators and entertainers create their art and what they're doing. And we're going to talk about that in part right now because we've got actor, singer, songwriter Jesse McCartney joining us. Jesse, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks a lot, Jake. How are you, man?
Doing good. I'm Greg, but you did talk to Jake. But let's go on. It's all good. Jake's gonna cut that out for himself. So let's go to this. Let's talk about your new video that just came out. So it's called Friends, and this is something that you were able to put out here during all this going on. Talk about the production of this and what it's like putting out songs and albums during quarantine.
Yeah, well, it's certainly a new experience for everyone, I think, in the music industry, right? And this was yet another hurdle for us. Unfortunately, and fortunately, I guess you could say, for me, I had just finished my album at the beginning of this year. I was all psyched and ready to go out on tour, put out all this new music, and then we get hit with this pandemic. And so the idea is like, how do you stay creative and motivated to put out content and digital content in a time where you can't really assemble your stereotypical crew. You can't put together a film crew together in order to shoot a video. So I talked to my this director I've been working with named Nick Peterson. He had directed my previous video, and I'd always wanted to do something animated. And he said, well, this is the perfect time. No one's going anywhere. We are on lockdown. So we ended up hiring an animation team out of Arizona. They were incredible, and Nick and I sort of came together on this idea that we would have this Zoom party between me and my former cast of a show, Greek, that I was on, sort of like, reminiscing about what it would be like to hang out. And we get sucked into this portal, and all of a sudden we're in this animated world. And so I think it really was timely. Obviously it's very topical. People can relate to the Zoom party glitches, when they're talking to friends. So yeah, I think it was just the perfect timing for a video like this.
It really is. And looking at it now, going into the animation, you said that you've always wanted to do that. Was there any particular way that you had wanted this to come out? Did you have some influence on how this looked?
For sure. I mean, I think as you can tell, it looks a lot like, the big mouth sort of style of animation, which I'm a fan of. Love Nick Kroll. I love that style of animation and that 2D animation. And yeah, so I think that was a big going in. I think that was kind of like we're all on the same page with that, and we just wanted it to be goofy. We wanted it to be ridiculous, totally inane. The beauty with animation is that you can do whatever you want. You can get into a fight with a superhero in a bar, and then turn into a car and end up on an island with dancing hula girls, and you can do everything. So.
Yeah, I mean, and taking a look at it too, I mean, it's definitely got the big mouth feel to it. There also it seems to be like a little bit of a video game feel to it, almost as well. Was there any influence with that when it came down to it?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of really put it in the hands of the animators, and let them do what they do best. And we definitely had, sequentially, we had ideas in terms of like what the story would be. We knew we wanted to be in this bar setting, having drinks. I think for a lot of people miss being at the beaches and they miss being at the bars, right? That's like a huge thing, at least in California. We Californians, that's how we feel. So we knew we wanted like an island setting and a bar setting, and we kind of had to find a way to joint those things together, which is really fun when it comes to animation. So one of my buddies, Paul James, we're in a bar and we get into a bar fight, and then he literally turns himself into a vehicle, and we drive off to some island. Yeah, so that was like the biggest thing, is just discussing like how we wanted it, what the story was going to be. And then I get sucked back into the portal here, and end up, back with my fiance, who's not too pleased. And then Jacob comes back in, and he's got a second ear on his face because the portal did not work very well. So it was a lot of fun to shoot.
Well, something else you brought up, is just, since you can't work with your entire crew, obviously, what you would normally be doing. And since you're at home, still trying to be creative, is there any one piece of technology you've been utilizing more now that you maybe didn't before?
I'm just getting a lot better at shooting my own interviews, to be honest with you. I've been promoting this new album, and yeah, I mean, I think if there's any lesson during this pandemic in terms of technology, it's that we are getting better at being self-sufficient and learning how to forcing ourselves to figure it out. So for me, obviously, yes, a lot of Zoom parties. I've ordered we have 15 ring lights. My fiance is also an actor and a writer, so she's got ring lights on. She's blogging. She's got ring lights all over the house. So we're basically like a self-sufficient studio here in my home. And at first, I was really frustrated with it, and now it's just like I don't want to ever leave my house again. You need an interview? I can shoot it for you. I can edit it for you right here and send it straight to you. We don't even have to do anything live anymore.
Well, do you think that going forward, as you put out more songs or albums, that you would want to go to this animated route again?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if for the appropriate song, and that's another thing, this song it aligned perfectly. I think musically, it just had this fun appeal. But yeah, with the right record, I think it's great. The thing about animation is it is a little slower than of a turnaround, just because it's so painstaking, the process, and it does take a lot of time. But so a lot of times people want content so quickly these days, but I would love to do it again. I mean, it was just so much fun, and who doesn't want to see themselves as a cartoon?
Right, exactly. I mean, that's one of the best parts about that. You got to see yourself as a cartoon. So one other thing that I wanted to bring up too is you are doing, talking about this being everything video, you're still interacting with your fans, and you have this exclusive thing that you were doing with them. Can you talk to us a little bit about that and what the application is that you're using to engage with them?
Oh, right. So yeah, so later today, actually, I'm using this new platform called Looped. It's a very streamlined application in which I can communicate with my fans and do essentially this one-on-one virtual meet and greet. I think during this time, another thing is people are just missing seeing live shows, live concerts. And one of the things that we offer during my live show is an exclusive VIP meet and greet experience. And because they can't do that, we were thinking of how I could also engage and interact with my fans. And this company is really great. We basically put on ticket sales like a few days ago, and we did like a small number just as a test run. They sold out in less than 24 hours. And basically, people are paying for a one-on-one virtual meet and greet. They'll chat with me for a little bit. We can take a screenshot right there on the app. It's very streamlined. Like, you can, there's like 3 buttons on the whole. It's not confusing at all. And yeah, so and then we chat, and then we move on right to the next person. There's like a digital queue. People know where they are in line. They can even chat amongst themselves while they're in line. So it's a really cool company, and I imagine we'll probably be doing a lot more of this sort of thing. And there's a market for it. I think a lot of people, a lot of fans, really miss talking with their favorite people, and I think they're jumping to. They just want to be. They'd love to see us in the flesh, I'm sure, out on stage. But this is the next best thing.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's just, how things are adapting, but it's definitely fascinating to see that. And it looks like, you're hitting it with the ground running and actually putting out some really amazing stuff during this. And Jesse, I want to say thank you so much. I want to remind everybody, Friends is up right now. So go watch the video. It's a great video. You get to see Jesse as a cartoon and your fellow castmates from Greek. So it's great stuff. And again, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Anytime, Greg. Thank you so much. And I'll make sure that it's not Jake next time.
Perfect. Jesse, thank you so much. All right, Jesse McCartney right here on Digital Trends Live. That was awesome. So definitely go check out his video. We've got a lot coming up here, though, on the show today. So tons of stuff. We need to get to a break because we've got Lisa Marie Segarra coming on to talk about Microsoft's big event yesterday and all of the latest in gaming news. So stick around, back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. Hey, welcome back to Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler. Thanks for joining us wherever you are. Hit that subscribe button because we keep you up to date on what is going on in the world of technology, and that includes gaming. And Microsoft had a big event yesterday. We're going to talk about that and more. Joining us, we of course have Lisa Marie Segarra. Lisa Marie, hello. Thanks for being here. Fill us in on what happened with Microsoft.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. So Xbox just had its latest event. They've been doing it monthly, except we didn't have one in June, so a lot of people were really excited about this one. The big highlight, of course, was Halo Infinite. So they showed off some gameplay. It was actually the only game that they showed gameplay for, which makes sense. You know, it's their headlining game, but, you know, they showed off a big map, a new grappling hook, which it feels like every game has a grappling hook now. And we saw a return to the old school assault rifle. And one thing that I did notice, and a lot of fans as well, the box art is very, very similar to the original Halo. And it seems like the style in it of itself is very true to its origins. And a lot of people, especially in aesthetics, were wondering, you know, why it didn't have those next generation graphics that we've come to expect. It felt very familiar and almost a little lackluster. But Matt Smith, one of our senior editors here, actually wrote a really interesting op-ed that focuses on why they're going more, you know, function over form. And it seems like they are really shooting for that 60 FPS and worrying less about how it looks, than how it plays and how it performs, and really moving into that next generation technology, which is really exciting. It's definitely a different move, and it'll probably have some skeptics. But I think once we start to get more emphasis on 60 FPS, then the graphics will follow. We've had a ton of games with amazing graphics, and it seems like they just wanted this to shine in that way and show off what their hardware can do. So that's really exciting as well. We got some other things. We got Fable, and again, there was no actual gameplay. They really just reserved that for Halo Infinite. But we did get a teaser. We got some other big reveals like the State of Decay 3, which is a zombie survival sim, Avowed, which is Obsidian's next game. And we also had Balan Wonderland, which comes from one of the creators and programmers or two of them from Sonic, which is really exciting. They're teaming up for the first time in 20 years. And I have to say, this is a Square Enix title, and it reminded me also of Kingdom Hearts in the way that a lot of their characters are modeled. Some of them remind me of Heartless, just the colors and some of the aesthetic choices that were used, which was kind of interesting to see from another Square Enix title. It's not related to Kingdom Hearts at all, but I did kind of like seeing that aesthetic translate to there a little bit.
Nice. I mean, it does. I always like seeing, some of the actual gameplay, but at least we saw that from Halo. Maybe not the rest of it. Did they give any kind of hints or clues on when they're going to reveal more? Or did they have another event down the pipeline or anything like that?
Well, they have been doing these, like I said, mostly monthly. Obviously, June, a lot of shakeups. A lot of companies decided to either forego their events entirely or move them back to, make room for Black Lives Matter protests and not take away from that. We saw PlayStation do that and some others. So there wasn't a June one, but I would be surprised if we don't have one in August. I think that we'll probably see one, and we'll probably see one in every single month leading up to the actual release, which is, of course, holiday 2020. And for those who don't follow these market cycles as much as we do, because why would you? The holiday season really starts in the fall, so you can expect it to go on sale probably in November, getting ready for Black Friday, which is closer than it might feel like. So I would be really, really surprised if they don't have an August, September, and October one as well. So maybe we'll see more gameplay there. I know fans are finally saying, we want to see gameplay. We don't want to see these CGI trailers anymore. Like, we want to see what it actually looks like, which is fair. So maybe next one.
100%. Yeah, I'm in the same boat as all those fans that you just talked about. Well, going from there, we also had some other news coming out as well.
Yeah, so Ubisoft is in the news for a different reason than they have been recently. After NBA 2K21 was revealed to go on sale at a $70 price point for the PS5 and Xbox Series X, a lot of people were wondering, is this the new standard, $70? The $60 for, AAA titles that are new has been around for years. It's been 15 years. So people weren't that surprised. People have been saying for a long time that an increase is coming. And, it also costs a lot more. The way that people make games now is much more expansive. The fans also expect more, so it's not surprising. But Ubisoft said that their next gen games are going to be $60. So that's really interesting. But one thing they said this in their earnings call, which was very specific, that they're concentrating on Christmas releases and that prices will remain at $60. So maybe they'll remain at $60 this time around, but come next year or next holiday season, they'll go up to $70. We don't know. It might be one of those things where it takes a while for that industry standard to really take effect. And some games are 70 and some are 60, and eventually everything will be 70. But, one thing that this might say is, for all of your releases that are coming out now that are $60, don't expect it to stay that way, just because some companies like Ubisoft are not adopting that $70 price point right now. And that's also pretty important because they have some big games coming out. You've got Far Cry 6, which is coming out, which people are super excited about, even though it was pretty recently announced. Watch Dogs Legion was announced over a year ago. People have been fairly excited for that as well. that was delayed for a bit. So now it's also competing with Far Cry 6 and the new Assassin's Creed Valhalla. So those are some 3 fairly big titles that people are looking forward to. And the fact that they'll be $60 and not $70, I'm sure will make a lot of people happy, especially with all of the economic turmoil going on right now in the recession, for big gamers and especially people who just want to have an escape and have like a hobby to go to. That's going to be really important. And, if it stays even just a little bit more affordable, that's really important for a lot of people. It's easy for us to say as people who often get review copies that we support this, but for everyone right now, I'm sure that they might be looking forward to this, at least for the time being.
Yeah, I mean, and you're right, because a lot of other forms of entertainment are gone, so maybe people want to buy some more games, but still, yeah, $60 is definitely better than 70, and I'm going to have to buy Far Cry 6, so I hope it'll be 60. I'm rooting for that. But Lisa Reed, thank you so much, as always, filling us in on everything going on in gaming, and like you said, hopefully we're going to have some more stuff kind of coming out here over the next few months leading up to these consoles. It's pretty exciting, and we've got all the coverage at digitaltrends.com, and thank you so much. I'll talk to you next week.
Yeah, thank you for having me as always. Have a good day.
You too. Lisa Marie Segarra right here. She does keep you up to date on everything going on in gaming. It's great. We've got all kinds of information there for you to follow along with. All right. Again, this is Digital Trends Live, and I thank everybody for joining us here wherever you are. We appreciate it. Juan, hello. Hank, hi. How are you doing? Good to see you. Coming up next, we are going to talk about this. So we see all of these companies working on rockets to take us to Mars, but where are we going to live in when we get there? Living in structures on other planets. We're going to talk about that with AI Space Factory. We've got David Mallet coming up next. Stick around. Back in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. Welcome back to Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler, and thanks for joining us. Hit that subscribe button on whatever platform you're watching on, that we get the notification when we go live. We get to have some really great conversations here on this show, and certainly technology for space is something that we've been talking about a lot. We see a lot of companies with renewed interest on getting humans to other planets and the moon and other places. But what are they going to live in when they get there if we set up these habitable structures and zones? Well, that is what we're going to talk about right now. Joining us, we've got David Mallet, who's the co-founder and CEO of AI Space Factory. Thank you so much for being here with us. Really, really excited to have you here.
Thank you, Greg. Delighted to be here.
So, David, to give everybody a little bit of backstory, can you tell us about what AI Space Factory is and what some of the things are that you've been working on?
Sure. So we've been working with NASA for about 2 years now, looking at technologies to build on the moon and Mars.
So looking at this, to build on the moon and Mars, I mean, that's a big statement right there. So when you talk about that, are we talking about structures and different things that people would be living in and working in? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, so the habitats for people to live in, but also the infrastructure. So things like landing pads, roads, berms, and anything you need to create a sort of sustainable presence off-world. So I think what you're looking at on the screen right now was our design proposal for a Martian habitat, which we call Martia for short. The thing about Martia and the whole premise of the technology is that it's 3D printed from material that you can harvest from the Martian surface, or in the case of the moon, from the lunar surface. It's a particular type of rock called it's basaltic regolith is the technical term. And to use the rocks that you find on the planetary surface as your 3D print material. So this is not like your desktop 3D printer, which uses a plastic. It's actually a little bit of plastic in there to bind the crushed rock together. That material is heated up and then 3D printed to create any kind of variety of structure.
So it's actually harvesting this rock, which would be important to harvest materials that are already there. But then, did you say that it's melting the rock itself? How does it actually make the rock malleable enough to be 3D printed?
So we still need a what we call a binder. So the material is a composite of the crushed rock and a polymer binder. So we're looking at different sources for where the polymer comes from. One source is just mission waste, plastics that are used in space. For example, on the ISS, there's a sort of whole list of plastics that are being used there. So, thinking about ways that we can take space waste and then use that, combine it with, the Martian or the lunar rock as the binding material. The other possibility, which is quite interesting, is actually synthesizing the polymers on the lunar or Martian surface. Either harvesting by growing algae, so you can make biopolymers from that, or actually synthesizing it directly from volatiles that you might capture, from these shadowy areas on the moon, where NASA scientists believe that you can unlock CO2 and then other other chemical compounds that we could then use to create the polymers.
Well, just that ability to utilize so many different kinds of materials, I mean, that's certainly a huge advantage for something like this. Now, with something that we're taking a look at there, say this does get up and going and it's on the surface of the moon, how long does it take to actually print out one of these buildings?
Well, you're looking at the prototype we printed for the NASA Centennial Challenge. And we printed this structure, it was 15 feet tall, in 30 hours. Okay, so 3 print days
Wow.
of 10 hours each. So it's pretty fast. Now, this is obviously a prototype. There's a lot of development that needs to take place between now and then. Obviously, here we're printing indoors in kind of comfortable Earth environment. Printing on the moon or Mars would present entirely different challenges. But the interesting thing about this, and you can see it's made with what we call Mars relevant material, because obviously the material is actually not brought from Mars, but it is made out of the same materials that you can find on Mars, and it's super strong. That last image you saw was a caterpillar excavator trying to crush down on this Martian egg, and it resisted the force of that excavator. So there's something about the shape, which is highly optimized, so it can be strong, even if it's kind of like, relatively like the thickness of an eggshell. So super strong material.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's like very mass optimized, but the material is stronger than concrete. So it's great stuff. So. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I was just going to say, I mean, this is really exciting stuff that you've got here. And as we see more of these space agencies and even the commercial aspects of it, aiming towards getting humans back to the moon and then to Mars, how far off do you think that we are before something like this is actually going to be able to be utilized on, say, the moon?
Well, definitely Moon is the next target before Mars. NASA's prepping to go back to the Moon in 2024. So we're gearing ourselves up to do a lunar surface demonstration, which would really be the first time that anyone has printed off-world But together we're still going to need to test the technology in incremental steps, in more and more lunar-like conditions. So first in a vacuum, and then in a cryogenic vacuum, and finally in microgravity. But it's really only on the surface of the moon that you're going to get all these environmental conditions working together. So that's the only time that you can really validate this technology.
Once it does, get to this point where we have these things built on the moon, and we get to there, is this something you would be wanting to go live in yourself?
Well, I think we'd have to do a lot more work before I would even, I guess, myself have the comfort level to trust it. I think, we would start by printing the simpler stuff. We call it a non-pressurized structure, so like sheds and stuff. And then it's there's a lot of components that have to come together, and then you have to just like on Earth, you just have to make sure that the building can last long enough, and you need to test things. So that would be the first phase. And then you go on to building the more complex structures, which are these pressurized structures, which are really more life critical. And then, sort of in parallel to developing the technology for space, and we can also build it here on Earth. And so if you think about the whole premise about using the raw materials on the moon or Mars as 3D print material, you bring that concept to Earth. It's suddenly a very, very sustainable way of building, because you're not having to manufacture steel, you're not having to manufacture cement, which are these very, very energy intensive materials, but you're just building with Earth as raw material. We want to get the power requirements down. I think by thinking about the space case, you're really having to develop your technology to be hyper material optimized, hyper power optimized, which means that if we're successful in doing this, then on Earth we can have a scenario where we're printing with solar power. So it's, the material itself is sustainable. The energy that's used to power the equipment can also be from renewable resources, and that's ultimately where we want to get with the technology on Earth. And so Earth is where we would build habitats first, okay, and prove them out, test them at that full scale to make sure that they can be completely airtight, that they can be pressurized.
Right.
So I'm not going to kid you, this is not something we'll be able to do tomorrow. It's going to take a lot of knowledge development, but nonetheless, we feel we are on our way.
It's really exciting stuff what you're doing with this, and I love all the advancement in all of this. And this is this is really making the building blocks in maybe a literal sense of what we'd be living in there on this and with this technology. Thank you so much for joining us here on the show to talk about this. It's exciting. I can't wait to see where you go with it and what the next steps are going to be. And everybody can follow along right there, AISpacefactory.com. And David, thank you for being here on Digital Trends Live with us.
Okay, thank you so much, Greg. My pleasure.
This is really exciting stuff. I love talking about space technology and just where that's going to be going. So 3D printed structures. I mean, this is it. This is in the near future, what we're going to be seeing, this kind of stuff. So very exciting. All right, we need to take a break, because coming up next, you've probably noticed that Major League Baseball has returned. And if you look in those stands, there's fans there, but they're not actual fans. They're virtual fans. And we're going to talk to the company behind all of that. Joining us next, we've got Dan Pack. He's going to talk about all of this technology that's bringing back sports in a new way. That's coming up next. Stick around. Back in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. This is Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler, and thank you, everybody, for joining us wherever you are. We do appreciate it. Hit the subscribe button. And, we're starting to see more sports come back, some actual sports here in the United States. And that includes Major League Baseball, which started back up. But one of the big issues with live sports is, what do you do about the fact that there are no fans there? Well, Fox Sports has teamed up with Silver Spoon to create virtual fans. We're going to talk right now to the managing director of Silver Spoon. We've got Dan Pack here. Dan, thank you so much for being here with us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
This is, I'm excited that sports are back, I just have to admit. But yeah, seeing how this is all coming to fruition is really fascinating. Can you tell us about what it is you're doing here with Fox Sports to bring back that fan element?
Absolutely. So we're basically populating empty stadiums with virtual fans that we created in 3D right here on our motion capture stage here in Brooklyn, and then running through another application called Unreal Engine, something that you might be familiar with if you've ever played Fortnite. Mm-hmm. And then also running that through another AR application called Pixatope, live, completely real time in response to what is happening in the game.
Okay, a few questions on there. So you mentioned motion capture. Were these actually captured by, these real people that you have scanned?
Basically. So what we do is we create first all the characters digitally. We model them in 3D. And then we actually bring people into our studio here in Brooklyn and just go through a bunch of different motions. We capture, it's movie technology, and it's what we use when we're doing a film or TV or a video game. And we're taking that motion, we're applying it to a bunch of different avatars, and then using that to populate the stadium.
And so you're doing this now when the broadcast is actually going. This is in real time. It's populated the stadium. But you mentioned, these avatars are able to react with what's going on. What is the technology behind that? How are you reacting to something that's actually happening in real time?
So we basically built out a very advanced UI that allows the controller to basically select from a bunch of different defined reactions. And so we can control it down to various movements from each of the characters in the crowd. But when combined, it can create, again, the feeling of a crowd booing or a crowd cheering or a crowd just reacting to a foul ball.
Fascinating. So there is somebody whose job it is to actually run that UI and watch the game and be like, okay, this should be a booing moment right here, or this should be a cheering moment.
Right. Absolutely. It still comes down to human operator to trigger those cues, but we've made it really easy for them to do it. What we're doing here is not really kind of rocket science. It's nothing new. It's video game technology that we've used for years in recording motion capture for games, but then applying that to a different purpose, applying that to a real-time broadcast.
You mentioned that you can control it all the way down to the level of like an individual person on there. So that's something that, as this kind of rolls out and develops, that's something that somebody will be able to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we can control literally everything that has to do with the makeup of that crowd, what they're wearing, what they're doing, literally even the time of the day. We actually have a function that ties in the direction of the sun at the time of year, at the time of day, to make sure that the lighting on the crowd matches the real world weather.
That is incredible. And this is going to be something for every stadium. You can populate whatever the stadium is, I'm assuming. And now you mentioned you can change up, the appearances. So is this something they're going to do, like whether it's the home crowd in Baltimore or wherever, just have the whole crowd would be like in those, orange and black?
Absolutely. We could really, what's really cool is that we can change the logos that they're wearing, the colors of the shirts that they're wearing. If we all wanted them to appear all in blue instantly, the entire crowd, we could instantly make that change. But again, I think it's important to remember that our goal here is not to call attention to the crowd, but just not to call attention to a bunch of empty seats.
Yeah, to add in that element that people are used to, and so it's a very elaborate background, essentially.
Exactly. It's adding atmosphere, and I always make the relationship or the analogy to watching a sitcom without the laugh track. So if you've ever done that, it always kind of feels a little bit empty. Jokes fall on kind of dead air, and that's what's happening with live sports in the last few months. It's just a little off-putting not to see anybody there or not to feel the crowd there. It actually takes your attention, I feel, a little bit more away from the game.
Yeah, I agree, because you're looking at that negative space there where it's just a bunch of empty seats, and yeah,
right.
It would be distracting. Now with this, with this platform that you put out, I got to ask, are there any Easter eggs hidden within this crowd that maybe you guys put in there?
There's a few things, a few things that you guys will just have to take a look for. I don't want to reveal what they are, but we've definitely planted some fun things in the crowd.
Awesome. Now that's what I'm going to be studying as pictures of this as soon as the games start rolling out. Well,
you might even find yourself in there too.
Oh, hey, okay. Now I'm definitely going to be searching. Well, looking at it from that standpoint, and how you're rolling this out, with Major League Baseball, do you see this being integrated with maybe some other sports or other forms of entertainment as we try to figure out this going forward? Maybe concerts?
Again, I think there's a lot of application to sports and live entertainment. The feeling of a crowd can't really be replaced. And so, I think this is the beginning of seeing more of this type of integration, and even just more integration of using 3D graphics in a live broadcast. Mixed reality has been around for a while. Pre-COVID, wasn't used as extensively, and I think now there's just an opportunity to create that infrastructure to do more of those really exciting things in real time on live TV.
Now you mentioned, talking about Unreal Engine and Fortnite and those kinds of things. Could you foresee a time where somebody at home could actually, rent one of the avatars and be able to control it themselves?
100%. I think there's always, what's really great about the engine is that there is so much flexibility to customize and do that in real time. I think that's the fun of working with an engine as powerful as Unreal, is that it just provides all of these possibilities to work in real time and to make really compelling content on the fly.
It is really exciting what you're doing here. I mean, none of us anticipate a pandemic. This isn't how anybody wanted things to go, but I mean, this is how it is. And the technology that's adapting to it is really, really cool. Things like what you were doing here with this. I mean, it's groundbreaking stuff, and it's definitely going to be interesting watching these games and seeing that element. Right now, probably the first game, I'm going to be focused on the crowd until I get back to the game, but then it'll go back into the background because I want to see what you've done with this. Well, Dan, I want to say thank you very much for joining us here to talk about this too. Really appreciate it and everything you're doing.
Absolutely. I appreciate your time and thanks for your interest, and play ball, I guess.
Yeah, right? I am going to look for myself in there, though. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to do that. Well, there's Dan Pack right here from Silver Spoon talking about their partnership with Fox Sports and Major League Baseball coming back. So those fans in the background, we just learned more about it, and that is really cool. So that is something we get to do here in Digital Trends, is learn about the technology behind the things you're going to see. So now you can tell all your friends, well, I know more about this. Let me tell you about what's going on with those things. All right. We got to fill you in on some other things. Some biggest stories in tech, that's coming up next. We're going to come back with a new edition of Tech Briefs. I'll recap 3 of the biggest stories in technology for you to make sure that you know everything that's going on. That's next. Stick around. Back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. Welcome back to Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler. Hello, everyone. It is now time for Tech Briefs, where I recap some of the biggest stories in technology for you so you can go to the weekend knowing what is happening. And let's start off with topic number one, Twitter's big week, for a couple of different reasons. Now, we know that they had their big hack last week where a number of different accounts, 130 actually accounts, were accessed and hacked, and we have some more information about what happened on that. So we're going to get to that here in just a second. Before I do that, though, let's talk about something else they did, and that was curbing QAnon. So QAnon, as you know, is a very big conspiracy theory. There's a lot of people that back this and share misinformation. This is Twitter's ongoing campaign to combat misinformation. And in the last few weeks alone, they have removed over 7,000 accounts associated with QAnon for violating rules and harassment. So this is a big push against that. They're going to also end the practice of recommending accounts that are associated with it, content that's connected to it. So they're trying to put a stamp on this because of so many different conspiracy theories and misinformation posts that are being shared around QAnon. And this isn't the only organization they've been pushing against. We know over the last several weeks that they've been doing this for a number of different things. They've been slapping misinformation or false information tags on a number of different posts, but QAnon now being the go-to one for that. It's going to impact about 150,000 accounts with this. So they banned 7,000, but it's going to impact about 150,000 as far as what they're sharing. So be of note there. That is something that Twitter is doing. And the other part of Twitter's big week, going back to what I was talking about, is in relation to what happened on July 15th with the big hack that happened for the Bitcoin conspiracy hack, not Bitcoin conspiracy hack, but Bitcoin scammers. So 130 accounts were hacked. And that includes Bill Gates, Kanye, Jeff Bezos, Joe Biden, Barack Obama, major, huge accounts that they got into and then posted this phishing scheme to try to get people to send in money. Last I checked, there was somewhere around $200,000 they were able to get. But we do have some more information about what actually happened. They said 45 accounts actually posted something. 36 accounts had their DMs accessed. So 36 different accounts, these hackers were able to get into the direct messages of those. Now, they didn't reveal who they were except for one. And one of the accounts, they said, was associated with a Dutch politician. But they don't believe the other 35 accounts where the DMs were accessed were actually political based. So they don't think other politicians did. But nonetheless, that could mean Kanye West. It could mean Bill Gates. We don't know. And that's something that Twitter has not revealed yet. They also said that 8 different accounts had their Twitter data downloaded on top of that. So what the far-reaching implications of this are, we don't know. The main thing is, this was a huge hack. They said that they're taking it obviously very seriously and trying to prevent this from happening again, but that is what's going on there. So Twitter updating on a couple of things, definitely in the news, so combating misinformation and also providing some more information about the security hack that happened on July 15th. Continuing on here with your trending news from this week that you should know for Tech Briefs, let's talk about Samsung. So they do have an upcoming event on August 5th. That's for their Galaxy Unpacked event, where they said they're going to be revealing 5 different power devices, but one of those devices was already revealed by them. So this is the Samsung Galaxy Z Flip G, and this is something that we anticipated anyway, that it was going to be coming out. We also anticipate a Galaxy Fold 2, but the Flip is based on their earlier version that they put out, where it's more of that traditional kind of flip phone like we think of, but with a foldable screen. So this is what it is. It's now with 5G. They did have some other updates to it. It's got 2 different colors, Mystic Gray and Mystic Bronze. Mystic Bronze being a color they've been showcasing quite a bit leading up to this August 5th event, so that seems to be a very big staple of what they're going to be showcasing. So the clamshell style phone uses a Snapdragon 865 Plus processor, so that's a little bit faster than what it had before. It's got a 6.7-inch display, 2636 by 1080 resolution, 8 gigs of RAM, 250 gigs of storage, 3,300 milliamp battery. So the battery's going to last a little bit less than what the previous Z Flip did. But here's where we're at. The one thing that is different from the original Z Flip is that it does have flex mode, where you can actually say, have it folded, watch a YouTube video on one part, and then scroll through the comments on the bottom part. So it kind of separates out the 2 screens. That's one thing they advertised on it. And then there is this. So the price, starting off, $1,450. So that is what the going price is going to be for the Galaxy Z Flip 5G. $1,450. It's going to be available August 7th. at Samsung, Best Buy, Amazon, T-Mobile, AT&T. And that's just one thing that they've revealed here ahead of this August 5th event. Now, we're anticipating it's going to be we know it's going to be the Galaxy Note 20. We think maybe another Fold 2, and perhaps some other things that'll go along those lines. They just say maybe a watch, maybe a tablet. We'll have to find out. But a lot being revealed right there. But that's a little bit that we know ahead of time. So a new product coming out that you can order coming up. You can read more about that at digitaltrends.com. And final trending story here has to do with the space race. Now, everybody is getting into it. Now, we know NASA is going to be launching their Mars mission, starting with a window on July 30th, July 31st, where they're going to be able to send their Perseverance rover up. But China beat them to the punch this week, and this is why they are making our Tech Briefs segment here. So China actually launched the Tianwen-1. Tianwen actually stands for roughly Heavenly Questions. And that launched on July 23rd. So it's the first big mission for the China National Space Administration, the first Mars mission like this. And what they're attempting to do is pretty big. It'd be the first time for a few different things if they're successful with this. So they want to place an orbiter, a lander, and a rover, so around and on Mars all at the same time, and have them work in conjunction with each other. So this would study for current and past life. No other organization other than NASA has successfully maintained a rover on Mars. So that's why this would be a very big moment if they're able to do it. Russia had one on for about 20 seconds. It set some stuff back before it conked out. And then you had the European Space Administration has crashed a couple of different ones on there. So this would be a pretty big moment if they're able to do it and maintain it. And since this is coming, a week before roughly that we're going to see the other launch from NASA for the Perseverance rover, we could have both of these arriving around the same time. We've got the UAE, which already set up their orbiter. So if that's successful, we'll have a lot of different countries and a lot of different organizations sending back information on Mars. So China with that, it's a big launch. Next week is the scheduled window for NASA, so we'll talk more about that. But this Tianwen-1 is scheduled to reach Mars in February of 2021. It's going to search for current and past life and try to map out some more things with the atmosphere of Mars and also the terrain. So a lot of really big scientific data that could come from this if it's successful. But again, there you go. Tianwen-1 launching from China, heading to Mars. And that is what we've got for Tech Briefs. I want to remind everybody that we are an audio podcast as well. So you want to hit subscribe wherever you get podcasts. Go to Tech Briefs each week. I will have the 3 biggest stories that I think you should know about from technology that we can catch up on what's happened during the week. If you get busy, you want to know what's going on. Well, that's what we're here for, is to help you out with that. So hit subscribe wherever you get podcasts. All right, it has been a week of shows, and I thank everybody for joining us here this week. So if you're watching right now, hit the subscribe button on whatever platform. You hear me say it all the time. Maybe you're just like, oh, no, Greg said to hit subscribe. I'm not going to do it. Well, please do it. Just go do it. Why not? So hit subscribe. Share the show. Let other people know about it, because we're here every single weekday at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. We bring you all those trending tech headlines, and coming up next week, we've got another great lineup of shows for you. We have Drew Prindle, Awesome Tech, all kinds of great guests, as we always do. And I thank everybody for joining us, so have a great weekend. I'm Greg Nibbler. See you right back here on Monday with another edition of Digital Trends Live.